Once upon a time, a few years ago, I saw a movie called Walk the Line, which starred Joaquin Phoenix, and it was about the life and career of Johnny Cash. It was one of the first character mature movies that I really fell in love with. I had watched Walk the Line multiple times after that first viewing, and I loved it. It was definitely the shit. However, later on, I saw a little comedy called Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story, and it was a direct parody from the film Walk the Line and other music biopics that were coming out around the 2000s. I fucking hated it. I could not believe the audacity of this movie to attack such a great movie, such a fantastic film with great performances and a wonderful story. But that's not why I hated it. I hated it because it was true. I had to come to terms with the reality that Walk the Line, even though I love it, and it is well made and that's all fine, but it is, at the end of the day, a formulaic biopic Oscar bait movie. Today, I would like to talk about Malcolm X and Raging Bull. I think these two movies are model biopics. They're some of the best movies I've ever seen, and I really, really love them. I think these movies separate themselves from what is a formulaic biopic, and here's what they did to become exceptional all-time movies, and how they avoided certain traps that other biopics have fallen into. They don't rely on performance. Like many movies starring Denzel Washington, many would argue that the best part of Malcolm X is him. Robert De Niro and Joe Pesci are often what is first thought of when people talk about the brilliance of Raging Bull. However, this movie isn't relying on the audience pointing at the screen and going, "Wow, he's that real guy." This is especially prevalent with music biopics because you get to see an actor perform songs that you already like. Yes, the lead performances are brilliant, and that's really important when you want to make a biopic. However, you still got to be keeping things at the very tippy top in every single department: cinematography, editing, writing, music. Spike Lee, Martin Scorsese keep things heightened and great everywhere. They aren't episodic. The movie Malcolm X isn't interested in showing the bare minimum of his early life as a criminal to move on to those big speeches we all know Malcolm X for, just to see a little bit of the assassinator's planning and motivation of the murder for the movie to end by the 2-hour mark. Here's what Spike Lee had to say about this.
Well, there were many, anytime people say, talk about Malcolm X, I always say they should really specify what Malcolm X they're talking about, because he went through so many changes and evolved so much. So that's what we want to get in this film, to see the evolution of the man. That is why the film, I always thought, is an epic film. Epic in scope and length. The film is 3 hours and 21 minutes. And we needed to be that length to get all those Malcolms. Because we just can't arrive at the Malcolm that came back from Mecca. You have to show how he got there.
Many biopics will only show the most significant part of a character's life, which may be entertaining, but tends to prioritize the events in the characters' lives over the characters themselves. My favorite scenes in Raging Bull are the scenes where De Niro and Pesci are just sitting around at their houses talking about various things, even though the most significant parts of their lives are probably the boxing matches and title championships and whatnot. Spike Lee and Martin Scorsese understand and take advantage of the small moments that define the characters instead of making a visual Wikipedia summary. They are self-critical. Many biopics fear criticizing the protagonist for many reasons. They'll fear that the audience won't like them anymore. The person may still be alive and condemn the movie, or they just want to focus on the achievements of the character. Some biopics only exist just to praise a real person. If you look at a movie like The Imitation Game, which is about a British man and his team who essentially invent a computer to save many lives during World War II, what else is there to say about a guy like him besides he did this great thing? Flawed characters are relatable. They're also the most interesting and complex. Scorsese does the opposite of what a movie like Rocky or other boxing movies does, and instead of making something uplifting, he shows a descent into madness from this one man due to jealousy, paranoia, and insecurity. Instead of making a movie that worships and mythologizes Malcolm X, Spike Lee doesn't hide the fact that he struggled to keep his family life stable, and that he struggled to separate himself from the deeply troubled organization, the Nation of Islam. These movies also don't take the cheap route and make the characters problematic only for reasons that are external. For example, they were pressured to do something, or they were, because of this circumstance, they ended up doing this. Nope, some people are just naturally flawed. Oh wait, everyone is naturally flawed. And you shouldn't hide that when you're making a biopic. They aren't defined by success. Many biopics are about celebrity and fame, and while Malcolm X and Raging Bull aren't really about that, they still have characters who become very successful and iconic for what they do. And the characters grappling with that aren't the only thing going on in there. If a biopic is just about fame, then what the hell are you saying that hasn't been said already? Last, don't fear to alienate the audience. In my opinion, the ability to not give a shit if the audience can't relate or stand by the character is essential to making a great biopic, because the themes, story, and characters can be really, really true to themselves. This is different from having a flawed character, because if you have, let's say, a protagonist who struggles with a drug addiction because they're grieving through something, that's maybe like a flaw, but it's understandable. Alienation means losing the ability to even relate to the character. When you look at a character in that perspective, you can engage the audience in a very unique way. Jake LaMotta is abusive, rude, vulgar, arrogant, crosses the line many times, and his only redeeming features is that he's great at what he does and he's kind of funny. Malcolm X obviously has a much better rep than Jake LaMotta. However, his rhetoric, which is very black nationalistic, which includes separatism, Pan-Africanism, black gun squads, and his comments on JFK assassinations, probably pissed a lot of white audience members off. This is honesty. This is true to what the character is, and to do otherwise would be compromising. Sometimes you have to cross the line, and you have to make a character individualistic instead of making the character just boring enough so that you can put your shoes in theirs. Many filmmakers don't want to do this because you can risk the audience not liking this movie anymore, which could really be a risk with getting good reviews from critics and getting awards especially. I think that if you can really just ignore the audience for just a moment and to just portray the character honestly, I think you can get something really great instead of something that is people-pleasing. Well, these are just a few things that I think make a great biopic. I also wanted an excuse just to talk about Raging Bull and Malcolm X because I love those movies so much. Make sure to leave a comment about what you think and be sure to like and subscribe. I will see you next time, Beefcakes.